I've been designated a threat to national security, and as such, I'm not allowed into the country.
Вам отказано во въезде в Российскую Федерацию бессрочно.
This was when I was 18 and I first came to Russia. I thought if I say something wrong, I'm going to be labelled as a spy.
I've reported throughout Vladimir Putin's presidency on the gradual crushing of rights and freedoms.
Do you feel safe now, comfortable now, like speaking openly?
No, never. I don't feel safe here in this country.
It is very bad, and it could become much worse anytime.
This is the story of my expulsion from Russia and what it says about the country I've been forced to leave.
Вам отказано во въезде в Российскую Федерацию бессрочно в целях обеспечения безопасности Российской Федерации. Более подробную информацию вы можете уточнить именно у инициатора. Да, у инициатора.
Я вообще похожа, я журналист.
Это опасная профессия. Я знаю. Мы, соответственно, все информацию по вам уточним.
The border guards had me sign this to say I'd been warned of the ban. For the end date, they scrawled indefinite.
Apparently, for whatever reason, that's it. My whole story with Russia is over.
And yet, after 12 hours, I was suddenly released and let into Moscow.
They let me in, for now.
But only to pack. None of that has been explained to me yet, but a reliable source did tell me I'm on a sanctions list for anti-Russian activity.
I knew that the FSB had me on their records as a threat. I sort of thought that if I said something wrong or revealed too much or protested too loudly, then suddenly, I'm going to be labelled publicly a national security threat. I'm going to be labelled as a spy.
Moscow looks a relaxed and carefree place on the surface. And it can be if you're not into politics. Anastasia is, though. She's an opposition activist from the southern city of Rostov, visiting the capital with her children for their first trip away since her house arrest was lifted. Anastasia was prosecuted as a security threat.
They blame me being not a patriot, but being an agent of other country.
Do you feel safe now, comfortable now, like speaking openly?
No, never. I don't feel safe here in this country. I am afraid for my children, for my mom who are next to me. I don't want to go to jail, of course. I'm afraid of police sometimes. You feel pessimistic, yeah?
I personally, right now, I feel pessimistic. Russia seems like it's closing off from the outside world, and people like you are the victims of that, I guess.
Yeah, it was a time when political activists were under repression, but now lawyers, journalists, comics, and some musicians, everyone actually is under repression.
Officially, I was ordered out because a Russian reporter wasn't allowed to stay in London. But that was 2 years ago, and no one made a fuss until now.
HIV, corruption, there's the protests, Belarus, Uzbekistan, football, I like a bit of football. The World Cup, that was amazing. People were really friendly. Someone ran up to me in the street on the square and she kissed me for coming to Saransk. File on treason and spies. I don't even remember which one this was. So many of them. Half of the people that we reported on are still in prison. Nemtsov is dead. I suppose I could just chuck it all away, but it just feels like an archive of a country, of a time, of a period of time, which hopefully won't be this miserable forever. Mash can just stand here, guard my place.
Independent Russian journalism is also under attack, like never before. The team at Dozhd cover stories that state-controlled media won't touch. They've already been forced off TV and onto the internet. Now the channel has been added to a blacklist of media declared as foreign agents. The journalists have to mark all their work with a warning. This news is from a source that's hostile to Russia.
The status of foreign agents means that we, Dozhd, we are enemies of the state. All the businesses, all the companies, all the partners, no one wants to be associated with the enemies of the state. That's exactly what they wanted to do with us, to say it's not safe to watch them, it's not safe to talk to them, it's not safe to work with them. That's exactly what they want.
Dozhd is still on air though, with that mandatory warning. In the headlines when we were there, an activist under house arrest for tweeting about a protest for Alexei Navalny. President Putin's biggest critic is in prison. His entire organization has been banned as extremist.
It's really strange now in news bulletins like this, because the presenter, every time she refers to Alexei Navalny or to his anti-corruption foundation, she has to remind viewers that they've been labelled extremists and foreign agents, the same as this TV channel. And the list of people that journalists now have to use that disclaimer for is growing all the time.
There is the understanding in the Kremlin that the pretending of being democracy is over. We don't need these independent organizations, human rights activists, independent media. We just don't need them here anymore. It is very bad, and it could become much worse anytime.
The Kremlin was my view for a long time. But its view of journalists, of the West, and of internal Russian critics has really darkened.
This is my favourite. This was when I was 18 and I first came to Russia as a pre-student.
I was learning Russian then. The country was opening up to the world. It was a time of new hopes, but real hardship too.
That's the Russian military base in Chechnya in the early 2000s during the Second War. So our basic mission was to get away from our minders so we could actually talk to people without them listening.
I began reporting from Russia just after Vladimir Putin came to power.
I didn't come to Russia to tell bad stories about Russia. I didn't come here to undermine the Russian state, which is this kind of mentality that they appear to have. I came here to talk to Russian people and Russian officials and to try to understand this country and to explain it to other people.
Vladimir Putin's presenting this as just another working visit, but of course it's so much more than that. There have been dozens of people detained here on Tverskaya Street.
I felt like by singling me out specifically, I felt like they were saying they didn't like what I was reporting, they didn't like the job I was doing, and it was easier for them just to get rid of me.
Russia's getting rid of political rivals too. Alexei Navalny's team don't want me to reveal where we met for safety reasons, just that it's in Europe. With Navalny himself behind bars, all his closest allies are now abroad. We found them preparing for a live stream as usual, but far from the surveillance, the police searches and the criminal charges they face in Russia.
Нет, вот сейчас уже вернуться, это уже чисто в СИЗО. Совершенно бессмысленная история.
Then Team Navalny have retreated, but not surrendered. They can broadcast from abroad, and they do plan more investigations. But the pushback is intensifying.
Эта машина, она никуда не денется. Она не умеет разворачиваться. Она умеет только работать по нарастающей, работать с запретами.
Такие чувства безнадежности или там вообще то, что это все бесполезно, не приходит. Вот особенно сейчас, да, вот когда вообще люди либо сидят там, либо здесь уже в ссылке, в общем.
Красная линия уже давно пройдена, но это не повод как-то совершенно отчаиваться и прекращать свою деятельность. Мы все равно хотим вернуться в Россию, связываем свою жизнь с этой страной.
My own link to Russia has been broken. But Vladimir Putin, the power in this land for over 2 decades now, is going nowhere. He's just got the constitution changed so he can stay on in the Kremlin.
I mean, I don't want to go, but I'll go, obviously. I mean, initially it was devastating, now it just makes me angry. Because it's not my choice. And also because it's just wrong for journalism. I do worry about what's happening to the country I'm leaving behind, and to the journalists, and to the just people that I've met who I think would like to live differently.
Ready?
So I've been forced from a country I've called home for almost a third of my life, whose story I've tried to explain to the world. But as Russia increasingly sees enemies all around, it's now added me to the list.